The story hits you fast. Men trapped in a battlefield that never sleeps, trying to steal a few precious minutes of rest while the world around them shakes, roars, and explodes. It wasn't just bravery that kept them alive in the night. It was routine, precision, a survival rhythm carved out of chaos, because in the trenches, sleep wasn't a luxury. It was strategy. And tonight, we're diving into the real night survival routine of World War I soldiers, the quiet battlefield nobody talks about. Welcome back to Wisdom from the Frontlines, where we uncover the forgotten systems and human instincts that kept soldiers alive. Let's jump straight in. Life in the trenches at night. Once the sun dropped, the battlefield transformed into something far more dangerous. Night brought out the snipers, the patrols, the creeping artillery adjustments. Soldiers knew that darkness was both a shield and a trap. So sleep wasn't taken lightly. It was planned, calculated, almost engineered. But here's the twist. Soldiers rarely slept at night. The trenches didn't allow it. The cold, the mud, the rats, the constant fear of gas attacks. Night wasn't rest time. It was survival time. How soldiers created what they called safe zones for sleep. Since danger could come from every direction, armies developed these layered sleeping routines. You didn't just lie down and hope for the best. Soldiers slept in dugouts, those small underground shelters carved right into the trench walls, reinforced with timber and sandbags. These weren't comfortable, not by a long shot. They were damp, claustrophobic, and, honestly, they smelled like soil, sweat, and gun oil. But they shielded you from bullets and shrapnel, and that made them worth their weight in gold. Inside these dugouts, the men created these little micro-environments of safety. Some hung coats to block out the drafts. Some used sandbags as makeshift pillows. Anything to reduce exposure, really. Anything to keep alertness sharp for when they woke up. The sleep shift system was what kept entire units alive. There was no such thing as everyone sleeping at once. That would have been suicide, frankly. Instead, soldiers rotated through strict shifts. Half rested while the other half stayed awake. Even within the so-called sleeping half, only a portion was allowed actual sleep. The others stayed half-ready, boots on, weapons within reach. This system prevented entire units from being overwhelmed by surprise attacks. It also meant soldiers learned to fall asleep fast. No overthinking. No long unwinding. If you were given 40 minutes, you used all 40. Veterans said it felt like training their bodies to obey commands. Sleep now, wake now, survive now. The constant threat of gas attacks. Gas didn't care if you were resting. It flowed into trenches silently, without mercy. So, soldiers slept with gas masks within arm's reach. Many kept them strapped over their chests, so a single motion would bring the mask to their faces. Imagine trying to sleep, knowing that one breath could be your last. Imagine drifting off only to wake up choking because someone's yelling, "Gas." This fear shaped their sleep. It wasn't deep, it wasn't peaceful, but it was enough to recharge just enough for the next day. How soldiers stayed dry enough to sleep. The battlefield hated dryness, trenches filled with mud, water, and rot. Staying dry wasn't comfort, it was survival. Wet feet meant trench foot. Trench foot meant infection. Infection meant amputation if you were lucky. Before resting, soldiers tried to wring out socks, scrape mud off boots, and elevate their legs when possible. Officers enforced foot inspections daily because they knew, if the feet go, the fighter goes. This routine added minutes to their sleep prep, but it also saved limbs and lives. Why soldiers slept better during the day. While nights were crawling with danger, daylight brought a strange sense of predictability. Enemy movements were visible. Sniper fire could be avoided. Patrols were fewer. Artillery was easier to anticipate. So, soldiers learned to catch their real sleep during the day, tucked deeper in the dugouts, with guards posted outside. Listening to the night. Even when sleeping, soldiers weren't fully asleep. They developed battlefield instincts, kind of like mothers hearing their babies cry. Soldiers could tell the difference between friendly footsteps and enemy movement, between distant shelling and incoming fire. And, between silence that meant peace and silence that meant trouble. They trained their senses to stay half awake, because the cost of full sleep might be never waking up again. Nighttime routines that maintained sanity. Despite the terror, soldiers created tiny human rituals to stay grounded. Some whispered stories before going to rest. Some wrote quick notes home. Some cleaned rifles as a way to calm their minds. Some kept small keepsakes, photos, coins, charms, near their sleeping spots as anchors to normal life. These weren't luxuries. These were survival tools, mental armor, little reminders that they were still human in a world that demanded they become machines. Dawn, stand 2. Just before sunrise came one of the most dangerous moments of the entire 24-hour cycle. Armies often launched attacks at dawn, so, soldiers were required to stand at the trench firing step, ready for action. This meant the last 30 to 60 minutes of night sleep were sacrificed daily. Exhaustion was normal. Running on fumes was the routine. But honestly, discipline kept them alive. Sleeping in a war zone wasn't a break. It was a battlefield of its own, one fought with discipline, instinct, and sheer willpower. World War I soldiers learned to rest in pieces of darkness carved out between explosions, fear, and duty. And that night, survival routine wasn't just about sleep. It was about staying sharp enough to see the sunrise. If you found this breakdown powerful, eye-opening, or worth sharing, help this channel grow. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share this video with someone who loves history as much as you do. Wisdom from the front lines is built on your support, and together we keep these stories alive.